I'm talking about this situation that's going down out there in Cali, man, out there in Los Angeles involving Big U. This is one of the craziest situations possible because essentially there's a whole podcast that's going to be I don't know if they're reaping the benefits or they're reaping the or getting hurt by this situation. I don't know. It's hard to judge, but based on the level of content they're able to put out from this, I don't know, because you got Loose Cannon, you've got Brick Baby. These are constant figures over there on No Jumper, man. Shout out to them. No Jumper be handling their business. They know how to make some content, don't they? But, man, I'm pretty sure even for them, they didn't expect this coming, man, because when it comes to Brick Baby, it seemed like when it comes to Loose Cannon, it seems like according to the indictment against Big U and this Rolling 60 Rico, Loose Cannon might have just been saying way too much, bro. It just seems like that. Like, a lot of the things that he said during those interviews, believe it or not, it was real stuff that was listed in the indictment, man. Because remember, in the press release that came from the Department of Justice, they basically talked about all the dealings and how these guys are podcasters or whatever. But when the paperwork dropped, the actual paperwork dropped, you could see that in the case, they had Loose Cannon listed as a defendant. They had Big U listed as a defendant. And man, all the information that they were getting, a lot of that information was coming from podcasts. It was coming from their time on the No Jumper platform telling these stories, these real street stories, which for any street dude, man, should be, I don't know, it should be scary. I'm going to keep it real. Now, let's get to the news story to catch everybody up to date who maybe during the week they were busy working, didn't get to lock in and see any of the news or things that was out there, and we'll give some commentary on that, right?
This just in, the FBI says that South LA crime boss Eugene Big U Henley is now in custody. Authorities say he ran a mafia-like organization while masquerading as a music mogul and gang peacemaker. Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez spoke to a rapper who worked with him. She joins us live with a story you'll see only on Fox 11, and this story breaking as we speak, Christina.
Yes.
All right, before she gets her take going, so Big U, they're classifying him as some sort of mafia-type boss, which is crazy, you know? In the streets and on hip-hop songs, it sounds pretty cool, right? But when it comes to work going in and facing a federal indictment, it's not that cool. You don't want anybody to be referring to you as a mafia boss or mafia-like figure, man. Because you know what comes with that? Mafia boss and mafia figure like time. And I'm pretty sure Big U ain't trying to do all that time that they're going to throw at him.
As a matter of fact, I am hearing that Big U and the other person they were looking for, Brian Mejia, both turned themselves in. This is developing as we speak. And as we speak, people are coming up and saying, on the one hand, that he did a lot for the community. And then there are those like this woman who say things are not what they seem. Listen to her.
No, I'm not surprised.
Now, I've never heard of this lady before. But I think, man, there's been stories on social media prior to this that Big U had some people he was actually, you know, roughing up and doing crazy stuff to, who were trying to reach out and get people to talk about. But I mean, her story is a total contradiction to the things that we had learned about Big U prior to this incident. Because don't forget, prior to this, they were putting Big U out there like he was this ideal father. He was this ideal guy in the community because, you know, he had this football league. Don't forget the football league. He had all these businesses and this gang intervention, and he was talking to the youth. Even I went back and did some research. Remember when T.I. got caught up with his gun case and his gun situation? Back in the day, I'm talking about back, he was like the BET Awards or something like that. Well, a part of his conditions, his parole, or excuse me, his conditions to be out on not bail, not his parole, not his pardon. Somebody will say it in the chat. But a part of the conditions with him working with the community is he had to do this TV show with MTV, right? So this TV show with MTV, T.I. went to different cities and talked to youth who were allegedly in the streets or whatnot and tried to encourage them not to be in the streets. And T.I. enlisted Big U as one of the guys to work with him in Los Angeles to talk to youth who were trying to get into gangs or who were finding themselves in the gang life or whatnot. And Big U sat and talked to several kids with him, man. So it's crazy to think that, yo, Big U in turn might have really been out here doing some dirt, allegedly, man. Because according to what's been said already in all this paperwork, man, they saying Big U was out here, shooting people, man. I don't know how else to put it. There's no other way to say it, but they said that, yo, he shot a young dude, I think like a 19, 20-year-old dude that had came up under him, had lived with him from time to time, had played football with his son, and he allegedly, man, put the hammer on him, man, which is crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Bruh.
But, man, let's continue with this news story.
Because I've been fighting this fight for a long time.
Rapper Alicia Choi speaks about federal authorities accusing LA rap music executive and community activist Eugene Big U Henley of leveraging his connections with the Rolling 60s Crips to run a criminal enterprise, even funneling funds from his community nonprofits into his criminal operations.
You cannot do evil when the cameras are off.
Now, that's the part that I couldn't understand, bro. Like, why in the world would Big U be taking that money directly from that account and putting it directly into his account? It just seems like a red flag, man. Like, I don't know, man. I always have a fear. Like, I always think like the IRS is out to get everybody and that they're looking at everything. And if you're in the streets and you run some sort of nonprofit or something like that, I would think you would assume that they're looking at the books all the time and wondering if you're gonna do something and mess up, if you're gonna try to break any type of rules, or try to catch you up. And taking money from a nonprofit organization or a charity, which is even worse, right? Taking money from a charity and then taking that money and putting it into your own personal bank account is one of the craziest things I heard, man. That's wild.
And smile and help kids when the cameras are on.
Choice, who you may have seen in rap videos like this one, says she was a budding artist when she first met him.
I was just a young kid wanting to rap and wanting to live out my dream and working hard. And, he really took advantage of me. I wanted to help bring donations into his nonprofit development options. And with that being said, he just wanted to take over. He wanted to bully me. He wanted to control me. Terrified.
And I want to emphasize, these are very serious accusations.
Yeah, man. And they hit the nail on the head on that part. Because Big U, like I said, even the news lady, you're going to see they're conflicted because of all the positive reporting that they did on Big U before. They're like, man, this is crazy. This is like a total different person than what, because Big U has a son that's in the NFL. I believe he plays for the Chargers or the Rams, one of the LA teams, right? And Big U ran this football organization that he was in charge of, and playing competitive games. Looked like he was gearing and putting kids in the right direction in life. You know what I mean? And to hear all this crazy stuff now is wild, bruh.
She is making. And, she says it is her fear, which makes it very difficult to follow up on these things. But she says her fear kept her from going to police. She did not file police reports, but that she did try getting a restraining order at one point. Now, what the feds, and we'll go to his photo again because it's hard to see him as a person that the feds are saying what he did when we are used to seeing him in such a different light. What they're charging him with has nothing to do with what she is accusing him from. The charges do not include anything of what she's saying, but they do say that part of the investigation involves the murder of another young rapper back in Las Vegas.
Okay, so she just came out and said that in the charging documents, none of what the other lady said is corroborated. So like I said, man, they conflicted because he was painted as this hometown hero type of dude, man.
Vegas. Back in 2021, I talked to police in Vegas, and they told me over the phone that the murder was over, are you ready for this? A diss. That he had written something in a song supposedly talking.
Now, what's crazy is that wasn't the first time that Big U was accused of putting hands on somebody because of a diss. You know, it was alleged that he put hands on Nipsey Hussle because of a diss. It was alleged that he had gotten to it with Corrupt, not over a diss, because Corrupt wanted to be in the streets so much, you know, and he was against that. You know, it's wild that, you know, Big U and these rappers, it always seems like he's putting his, alleged to be putting his hands on them, man. So why in the world, like, it feels like when it comes to managers or, you know, people who discover talent, they always feel like they have this ownership over the artist. Y'all ever peep that? It's this weird, I own you, I own this, you gonna do what I say type of weird relationship with artists, man, that managers and people who discover talent and agents and stuff have with them. Like, dog, like this person isn't an independent person on their own. Like, you ain't nothing without me type deal, man. It's crazy, man. And I always peep that, man. I don't know, maybe it's flashbacks of the 5 Heartbeats and whatnot. But I got those type of vibes from Suge, and I get those type of vibes from Big U, man. But let's rock.
Bad about Big U, and that is why he ended up getting murdered. That's what the police were telling me. So it's just still developing. There's going to be a lot more to this whole thing, but we can tell you he has turned himself in, and I'm sure a lot of people are waiting to hear what he has to say about this, including us. I'm Christina Gonzalez, live in Park. Back to you guys.
Okay, man. So from that news story, you gather, for anybody who's been, you know, busy working this week, you didn't get a chance to get an update. You were wondering what all the fuss is about. That's the fuss, man. Big U, man. A namesake in the hip-hop community in Los Angeles, and a guy who's known for his podcast, I think it was called Check-In or whatever, was put out there to be, you know, by the feds, a mafia-like boss who, in conjunction with his unique enterprises, used his influence in the Rolling 60 Crip gang to carry out mafia-like operations. Everything from extorting businesses, and they said mostly like gray-like businesses, so people who are in, you know, sketchy type industries. So say like dispensaries and people like that. You know, he was doing a lot out here. And the crazy part about it, a lot of this stuff has been discussed on a lot of these podcasts. So man, let's actually get into some of the finer points of the paperwork that I wanted to talk about